Hello, I'm David Headley, and I chose The Politics of Virtue, Chapter 24. Whenever I was first looking at this chapter, I really didn't know what to think. I thought it was going to be a chapter about kind of falling back on some of the earlier chapters, instilling morals in our students, so on and so forth. And I was very pleasantly surprised that it went a totally different route and really played on more on the politics or political science side of uh, running a school and the two major schools of thought on that. So the politics of virtue. Uh, I I really liked there I had so much. I took so many notes on this chapter. I had like 4 pages of notes, and it was a very short chapter again. But there were just so many great things that stood out as I was reading. So what are the politics of virtue? It is a game called The Politics of Virtue, a politics motivated by shared commitment to the common good and guided by protection that ensure the rights and responsibilities of individuals. So of course I had to sit and ask myself, like, what does this mean? So the two different major different well, I'll go into that. The politics of division is the second. You got the politics of virtue and the politics of division, and they're two different schools of thought. And basically, right now, most schools are going to lean more towards the politics of division, is a consequence of applying formal organization theories of governments, management, and leadership to schools. At root, these theories assume that human nature is motivated by self-interest and that leadership requires the bartering of need fulfillment for compliance. I really like that definition. There were a bunch of different ones that were kind of spread throughout, but that leads into my next slide, of course, which is the politics of division. These were some really good ones. I had like a whole page on this one. Note the environment in which the game is played. Inordinate uncertainty about what must be done, the necessity that something be done, and crucial consequences of whatever is done. That's one of those things where you hear it so much. Always cover your uh, behind, right? And that's one of those things where it's going to come back to you if you make any mistakes, where it's not a reward for doing something positive. It's always make sure that you're covered in case something goes wrong. And that's one of those things as a teacher. There's so much division. I've seen it I've only been to two schools, but I've seen it in both schools where there's like sides, right? It's the teachers versus the administration. And it's like, no, we're all a giant team. And I feel like depending on the administrator, that's going to be, you know, if that's going to come up or not. And then just in some cases, most teachers are in their classroom for like 8 hours a day. And so they're very isolated, and it's hard not for those kind of situations to present themselves. Uh, uh, I like this one. The politics of division is a consequence of applying formal theories of governance, management, and leadership to schools. I thought that summed it up pretty well. And in my previous summary of it. Then I wanted to go into the next slide, which is the benefits of civic virtue. The benefits of civic virtue, the rewards of the game, effectiveness, i.e., impact on outcomes as the immediate measure of performance, encourage hard play. To create a political body that brought people together and created a we, but still enabled people to separate themselves and recognize and really like this. It's one of those things, like whenever I'm speaking about my class, it's always the we, the we, the we. And I really like that that was pointed out so well that administrators, or me when I am in an administrative role, I will always try to be a we spirit. I would like whenever I move up to administration, to still be teaching. I come from smaller schools, and my previous principal was also, or my previous vice principal was also my mentor, and he taught history, and we kind of just moved around. He ended up teaching English. I took over history, and we had that great situation where he was a teacher and administrator and was able to really get to know the students. I think that's so important, that we environment is fostered. Uh, but basically, I wanted to really cover what civic virtue meant, and they had some really good ones. I picked some of the best. Civic virtue was embodied in the willingness to of citizens to subordinate their own private interest to the general good, and was therefore the basis for creating a politics of virtue. And then I really like this one. They would be in a civic, uh, whenever you're dealing with a civic virtue, or whenever you're seeing civic virtue, they would be responsible for deciding their own educational purpose, program scheduling, and ways of operating, and means of demonstration. It's a classroom run by teachers, or the administrator would give that freedom, where I feel like I'm given a lot of freedom, but in some cases, that's not the case. And then this page, I'm not going to have time to go over it, but there were just excellent, excellent examples of success, and that whenever that civic virtue has been instituted in the students. And these were just wonderful examples. Again, I'm not going to have time to go through them, but they're wonderful. And then there's my references. I had a wonderful time with this chapter. I really, it and chapter 6, I think, were my two favorite with regards to taking the information that I've read and being able to use, or attempt to, I shouldn't say, be able to attempt to use when I'm an administrator. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful evening.